Human lie detector is something to be. Just imagine. The man who truly is spent most of his life dealing with liars, cheats and criminals. And before that, he was a police officer. Now he deals with, well, you've got the rest. Politicians and public figures.
And through forensic investigations of what they say, how they say it, and even how they stand while they're saying it, he produces uncannily expert evidence as to their characters.
He is Darren Stanton, and I'm telling you the truth, he really is the human lie detector. You are an amazing man. The more I look at your work, the more I'm knocked out by it. To be honest, no, that's the title of your forthcoming book.
It is.
First of all, tell us about that book. It's called To Be Honest. When is it out and what is it about?
Yes, it's the expression, goes an expression, to be honest with you, that people tend to say when they're lying. So it's all about body language and really teaching people to do what I do. You know, we've all got a kind of a gut instinct when we know that people are probably being deceptive. So it's really just a kind of a recipe to teach people how to spot deception.
Fantastic. And it's coming out in July.
In July.
I just wanted to get that out of the way because there's clearly a market for someone with your skills. I could think of any number of applications for it. I'd like you sitting next to me, for example, when I was interviewing job applicants or perhaps being interviewed by journalists.
Absolutely.
Where did you discover these amazing skills?
Well, first of all, I trained as a psychologist. I used to love the show Cracker many years ago as a kid.
Cracker, Robbie Coltrane, he was a friend of mine, yeah.
Solve crimes with psychology.
Yeah.
And I quickly realised that, you know, once I'd sort of trained in it, that it wasn't like that at all. So I went off and joined the police and spent quite a long time as a policeman interviewing suspects, and since then continuing my studies in psychology. And then obviously,
you must have had a good track record interviewing suspects.
Yeah, I mean, obviously...
You've got like a third eye.
I think it's something that anyone can learn. You know, it's a skill that we've all got. It's like most things in life that we get good at what we practice and what we do every day.
So to be honest with you is a red flag. Give me one or two other quick red flags that we should all look out for.
So generally when people tend to lie and be deceptive, they'll change position with their eyes. So it's a thing called eye accessing cues. So right-handed people tend to look left for information they're remembering, whereas when they're on the spot and they're trying to come up with a plausible answer, they'll shift eye position. So changing eye positions is another red flag.
So is it just body language, or do you analyze people in combination with the words they choose?
Yeah, their actual language.
Yes,
Sure.
exactly. I mean, I don't know, the way they breathe. I don't know.
It's the whole picture, really. Different to a polygraph that, you know, we sort of hear about sometimes. Yeah. A polygraph is really measuring physiological responses to stress. Yeah. So, you know, if we were doing a polygraph machine, we'd have a band placed around our chest which would measure our breathing, a pulse sensor on our finger, and a thing measuring our sweat, because it said that when we lie, breathing gets quicker, our pulse races, and we sweat. But it's been proven that, you know, even innocent people can give off something called false positives, which is why none of this is actually, like, you know, lawfully evidential. Yeah. So it's just it's there to assist and help in sort of investigations. So when I first look at somebody, I'm getting a baseline. So we all have a natural resting state of the way that we talk with our hands or when we look with our eyes, and the speed and the pitch that we talk at. So we've got natural resting gestures. But when people are stressed and the perception is that we're going to be caught in a lie, and I'm talking not just things that we might say to a friend or partner that, yeah, you know, you look great in that new dress, or your hair looks fantastic, because they're white lies that we say every day to avoid social awkwardness, and we don't want to hurt people's feelings. So the kind of things that I'm involved in are, you know, deception, fraud, things of that nature. Yeah. So there'll be distinct changes in patterns of behaviour when that person's experiencing a lot of stress, and we call it detection apprehension, when that person perceives that they're close to being discovered. So the irony is that the more they try to keep that lie in, the more the lie wants to get out, and that's called leakage. It's not a nice word, So the body leaks out this information.
Yeah.
So if you know what to look for and know how to decipher it, you can see it quite easily.
But that presupposes the liar is stressed because they're lying.
Yeah.
Isn't it the case that the better the liar they are, the less stressed they'd be while telling lies?
That's a good question, George. And research has shown that even no matter how well people are trained, so even certain politicians, even though they may be well trained.
In a minute.
Yeah. The truth is that, I said the statement there, but I am being honest. The truth is that because they've got the same neurology and physiology as the rest of us, they can only juggle so many balls, so to speak. So at some point, if they're particularly stressed about delivering certain information to the media, for example, at some point, they won't be able to consciously keep a lid on some of these tells that they give off.
Is this culturally across the world the same, or different rules apply in different regions?
Another fantastic question. Although there's cultural differences throughout the world, research which was done by a guy in the States called Paul Ekman discovered that even though, beyond culture, we've all got only 7 universal laws of human expression.
Only 7.
So we can be happy, we can be sad, we can show anger, we can be afraid, we can be surprised, and we can show contempt and disgust. And even people that have been blind since birth are genetically innate with these same expressions.
Really?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't need you to tell me when a politician's lying because I saw their lips moving. But of course, some lies are bigger than others, some are bigger liars than others. And of course, some are paragons of virtue,
Absolutely.
we should say, for balance. The political class, even in my time, have developed a lot more skill in conveying actuality that isn't quite right. How do you analyse the current, crop of political leaders who are lying, who are not, and who are good at it and who are not?
I think the two world leaders that do come over being quite truthful and seem to have a lot of integrity seem to be Mr. Macron and Trudeau. To me, they kind of, what you see is what you get. So all of their non-verbal behaviour is consistent with what they say verbally.
Really?
Yeah, so for me, they're two people that stand out as being, quite truthful most of the time.
Well, the clue was in his name, Trudeau.
Well, whilst we have you here,
Sure.
I've got some clips of other world leaders.
Okay.
And we would love to hear your
Sure.
analysis
I'll do my
on
best
them.
for you.
First of all, we've got Trump and his speech on the Iran deal this week. Do you need the sound?
No, non-verbal's fine.
My fellow Americans,
I think a number of things come over to me in this clip straight away, just in terms of the way he's conveying the information. President Trump is quite an animated guy. Now, we've seen in the media recently certain postures that people have adopted, sort of spreading their legs and sort of holding out their arms. The more space that we occupy, and we've seen this in sort of like red carpet situations with celebrities, so the more space that we occupy, it's linked to their perception of how powerful they are. So, for example, usually with Mr. Trump, he's very, very animated. And in this clip, he's quite stoic. He's trying to come over very solemn, like he's doing the world a favour, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we see this gesture quite a lot, which that's just in his mind. That's just making certain key points. So he tends to do that. He just, as I've said that, he's made that gesture, and also we see him squinting quite a lot as well. So that maybe he can't see the auto cue, or maybe it's just to reinforce a point. So this is a switch.
He's all about that.
He's all about big,
isn't he?
yeah. So with a handshake as well. Double handshakes. He's changed of late as well, because when he was first inaugurated, I did quite a lot of work all around the world on his handshake. So what he was doing is his bone crusher handshake, which is a link to power and assertion. And then Mr. Trudeau was on the White House steps, and I think he'd already been briefed, because Trump, he had this what we'll call like a yanking gesture where he'd pull people towards him.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they went with him, he kind of knew they'd be relatively compliant. Whereas the politicians that resisted that pull, he thought, there's more work to do with this guy or this woman.
I see.
Well, you saw how he behaved with Macron, your paragon of truth. I must say, I find that a surprising one. But he literally pulled him around the rose garden.
He did.
I mean, he practically took him up for a dance.
Yes.
Now I've got one more clip of another world leader, our very own, Theresa May. She's meeting with the head of UN.
Yeah, Secretary General of the UN, yeah. You wouldn't be able to tell that necessarily from that clip, not least because, or not only because not many people know his name.
His face.
But don't you think, Darren, that there he looks like a mouse and she's definitely top dog?
Yeah, I was looking for the cheese actually. I'll tell you what, George, because it's interesting that you say that. Yeah, if you watch his hands, you know, anything nervous, people tend to play with the ring, if they've got a wedding ring on, something like that. So we can see hand wringing. He's kind of playing with his fingers. He's very nervous around May. And this one with his head, when people tend to bow, and this is why people bow with royalty, things like this. It's subservience, it's submission. You're acknowledging that they're more powerful than you. That's where that gesture comes from. So we can see in this clip that May is clearly, you know, in psychology we call it pace and lead, that she's setting the pace for the conversation and he's leading.
And she didn't even have to do the power stance.
No,
What- finally,
She didn't cross her legs though.
what is that all about? Why are the Tories in particular, men and women, striking these power poses?
Well, no doubt they've got somebody like myself advising them. I personally wouldn't have advised them if I had them as clients, because I think it just looks a ridiculous gesture. It's again linked to power and the assertion of power and control. So we see.
Well, we know how strong and stable the Prime Minister
Well,
is.
absolutely. So the leg thing is most prevalent with Mr. Putin and Trump. And there's been lots of clips that I've worked on where they've more or less adopted the same posture. Yeah. And it's basically to say who's a more powerful man. It's almost, you know, who's got their legs open the widest. Really, you know, I could use other analogies, but I won't. So that's kind of where that comes from. It's like who is the more powerful man?
It's two alpha males,
basically,
two
yes.
silverback gorillas.
That's what that gesture's denoting.
But I know which one I'd pick in a fight. To come out.
I'm sure I can manage on that.
Top. Trump's alpha male status is somewhat diminished by the fact he has very, very small hands.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
Tiny hands, tiny. Well, Darren, it is utterly fascinating.
Thank you, George.
I'm the first customer for your book in July.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
To be honest. Darren Stanton, the human lie detector. Thanks for joining us. And now it's your turn to tell us what you think through the portals of social media. What's rattling, Gayatri?
Can you tell when politicians are speaking the truth from their body language? Alistair Barber says, you can tell when they're lying though. Their lips move. I know it's an old one, but it has to be said.
It's one I've often used myself, as well as, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Gentleman's nose is growing.
Now, Levison. Ryan says, the media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. And that's power, because they control the mind of the masses. Signed, Malcolm X. Levison 2 is desperately needed to clean up the UK political system.
Well, I don't think it would clean up the UK political system, and the baby that would be thrown out with the bathwater would be the possibility, however remote it seems, of a genuine and decent media in Britain that was doing what it should be doing, of really holding the rich and the powerful to account.
Okay, well, that's all the time we've got for the media today.
Which, alas, means that's the end of the show.
But you can stay in touch with us on our social media feed, Twitter and Instagram, RT_Sputnik, or on Facebook, Sputnik on Russia Today. It's goodbye from me, Gayatri.
And from me, George Galloway. It's been marvellous.